again, welcome to who's calling me. So once again, sorry, a call just came in now. So once again, welcome to EdTech Undergraduate Research Basecamp, and I think we are good to go. Again, this is my black face. I'm Stephen Prezagbola. I graduated from EdTech in, I don't even know the year we graduated because a lot of things happened. So yeah, I graduated in 2022, class of 2021, graduated in 2022, and I think I have an ample knowledge to share with you based on my previous experience. So the agenda for the call this evening is, again, just a bit of a brief recap. Last week we talked about general overview, getting to know about your supervisor, um, sharing my personal experience and tips that I think you can use to ease your experience. And as we proceed today, you will find, like some of the things I said previously, you will find them, being evidence in this presentation. If you could remember last week, I said like one of the ways to develop relationship with your supervisors is asking questions. And of course, you don't want to ask questions that, again, there's no dumb questions. Trust me, there's no dumb questions. But you don't want to ask questions that are outside of context of what you are working on. So as we progress here, you start seeing, oh, these are some of the things that I can use to elicit conversation with my supervisor, or like even it might not just be to elicit conversation, it can be something you're not clear about that you want him to explain much in details. So yeah, the agenda for today is we'll be talking about research just briefly. Also, we'll go into the method of research, that's research method. Uh, we'll talk about research method and their techniques. So basically, this is just about how you collect data for your research, and also talk about dependent and independent variables, because variables are component that makes up of your research questions, right? So, and then also talk about, to cap it up this evening, we'll be talking about educational technology research format. So, and you really enjoy this part because I kind of believe after we discuss about this, if you haven't seen a research project before, you will know, oh, this is how it's been structured. And I'll try as much as possible to lay emphasis more on this, on the educational research format, educational technology research format. So, so this is the disclaimer. The call is being recorded, and I've talked about this, the materials being shared, and sharing my knowledge. Also, please feel free to ask questions. Like, just ask questions. Doesn't really matter whatever it is. So, I guess we are good to go. Yeah. So, understanding research design method. So under this phase, we're talking about research, defining research, type of research method, then a little brief discussion on research method and research method techniques. I know probably you've discussed about this in your 300 level when you do method course, but this is just like a refresher, like not trying to reinvent the wheel again, but just to remind us of things. So yeah, what is research? Like I said last week, research is not really like something that is entirely abstract. Based on Cambridge Dictionary, it's a detailed study of a subject, especially in order to discover new information or reach new understanding. And also Western Sydney University, they define research as the creation of new knowledge and or the use of existing knowledge in a new and creative way, so as to generate new concepts, methodologies, and understandings. So if you look at these two definitions critically, you will see they correlate a lot. So they are talking about generating new information or to reach new understanding. Why Western Sydney University, they say, oh, it is used to, creation of new or use of existing knowledge in a new creative way. So the key part of these definitions is that you are bringing out new information. It's not like I'm trying to get the right word. It's not like you are trying to create something just for from evil. No, you are, I mean, at this stage of undergraduate studies, right? You are trying to see how we can create, deduce new information. You can create solutions in a creative way by trying to look at works that has been previously done in just your own creative way, your own ideas, contributing to knowledge banks, right? And also trying to see where you can come in, because everyone has their own contributions to make, everyone has their own ideas. And that is why last week we said one of the easiest way to find research topic is to ask yourself, what am I really interested in? What really interests me, like which area do I want to contribute, which area do I want to make myself informed, which area do I want to learn more about. So that's what research is basically about, is you trying to bring out discover new information, right? Because life is not really like statics. We keep moving, revolving every day. So as a researcher, you try to see existing concept and try to find out new solutions, new idea, new informations. So I think that's all you need to know about research, right? And now let's talk about research method. Please, if you don't get anything, please just I should be able to see when you raise up your hand. I'll be glad to explain again. So when we talk about we've talked about what research is, right? We say research is trying to find out new information, not from an abstraction of entirely new concept, but trying to build on existing works to derive creative ways and new creative ways, because we are humans, and like I said, we keep evolving. What you find to work in Sokoto, which is part of the northern part of Nigeria, might not really work in the southern part of Nigeria. So, as a student, as an undergraduate, you are trying to see how you can contribute to existing knowledge by devising new solutions. Now, what are the research methods that you can use? So, here I have the research method as strategies, process, and techniques used in collection of data or evidence for analysis in order to uncover new informations or create better understanding of a concept. So now you've understood what research is, you are trying to find out new information. Now, what are the methods you use? Of course, you can't just say, okay, I'm interested in information technology and I want to see how it has evolved and how it is contributing to student performance or how it's contributing to student learning. So you have to devise method to go about this idea you already have, these solutions you're already trying to purchase. So you have to come about with a method. And in education and in in research, we have three methods. The first one is qualitative research method. Of course, you can add method to it. The second one is quantitative research method. And the third one is mixed method of research. I could remember this when we were taught in my third level, to be honest, they really sound strange to me. But as times would demand for it, it's something I had to embark on journey to, you know, deep down learn, okay, what is my research all about? Am I working on a quantitative research? Am I working on a qualitative research? And the type of research you are working on determines on how you collect your data. So we'll still talk about, the section of your project that talks about data collections, right? So the type of research method you are using will determine how your data are being collected. So that is what is being defined here in the definitions, like a method, strategies or processes, and or techniques used in collection of data, so or evidence for analysis in order to discover new informations. So now you see, in order to uncover new informations, so uh, in order to uncover new information, which is actually researching, right? So now, I guess since we already know the three methods of research that we have, which are qualitative, quantitative, and mixed method research, we can embark on a journey to look at these three in details briefly. So the first one is qualitative research. Now, I love to do something which is taking a step backward to look at what critically. Looking at qualitative, like in a mere understanding, it's kind of conjunction of two words, right? Qualitative, quality. So we are talking about quality here, right? And it's for me personally, that is one of the way I try to grasp the knowledge of what I'm trying to learn. So we're talking about qualitative research. So this particular type of research or method of research deals with gathering of data about life experience, emotions, or behavior, and the meanings individual attached to them. So it assists the researchers to get like a better understanding of concepts, social interactions, or cultural phenomena. And I love to think about this in kind of like in historical perspective when you are trying to research on people's way of life, people's culture, when you are trying to get information about incidents that has occurred previously, trying to get people emotions to it, or like I'm trying to get the right word to use now. When you can't quantify something, you can't quantify it in terms of measurement, but you can see the effect, like the quality of it, right? So this type of research is basically useful in exploration of how and why things have occurred, right? So you can just take a step backward. I make these keynotes here, which is supposed to be like a note to, so it is a type of research that is useful in exploration of how and why things have occurred, interpreting events and describing actions, right? So you use this particular research method to describe things. You are not trying to measure it in terms of numbers or trying to give numerical value. So the best way to identify here is it's this qualitative is not dealing with numerical value. We'll still talk about the type of research that deals with numerical value. So now a more relatable example is probably you are trying to see student attitude. You are trying to see student attitude towards, oh, what are your attitude towards transportation on campus? And as you begin, you can't kind of course you might develop like another approach, a method of research to to gather data about what you want to research on, right? But in terms of qualitative research now, you are trying to get students, oh, are you exhausted? Like you want to engage with them, you want to know, you want to have direct conversations with them just to know, it's you might say, oh, I just want to give out my questionnaire to them. Let me see. Um, okay, what do you think about this thing? Like on a scale of 1 to 10, how you won't be able to get the adequate response. And interviewers, like journalists, they tend to use this type of research oftentimes. I know all of us will probably remember this Wala Tiwa or Problem Tiwa, these kids that trend sometimes ago like that, like Pressure Tiwa, it was, you can feel the guy's emotions, yeah. So if you probably given him like a survey in this kind of scenario, you will gather your data, right? But you are not gathering the exact narrations. If you watch the clip again, you can see how he was really intense about, oh, he's not happy, there was no fuel and all the stuff. So those kind of research method, you try to interpret the events, and that is what you have here. please just feel free to let me know if you need more clarification. The next type of research we have is quantitative research. So this type of research deals with measurement of numerical data. Yeah, probably you have classifications of trying to gather, oh, okay, in a class, how many students love to read during the day? How many students love to read during the night? So you are trying to create a kind of proportion to this and attaching numerical value to it. And that's really what quantitative research method is all about. So you try to gather numerical data which can be ranked, measured, or categorized through statistics analysis. So this type of research is useful for finding out how many, how often, how much, or to what extent. So you might say, like, to what extent do University of Lawrence students use the internet? To what extent do University of Lawrence students enjoyed studying online? To what extent do so, I mean, this is just like a verbatim explanations, right? When you begin your research, you will get acquaintance with the right words to use. But when you are trying to measure uh, quantitative research, I mean, like adopting the quantitative research method, you are trying to measure. You are trying to measure like with your variables, which we'll still talk about. So yeah, I've talked about qualitative, which is dealing with non-numerical value. We talk about culture, events, and emotions, stuff like that. And then quantitative research method, we talked about numerical values, like trying to measure. So you attach numerical values to your data. And here we have the mixed research method. So what mixed research method does is it combines the qualitative and quantitative research. So now you see like why we have the mixed research method is because quantitative and qualitative has been said that they have they are limited in the way they solve research solutions. So I attach a link at the end of these slides that give detailed explanations on why we have mixed research method. So mixed research method just try to help us to solve uh, the limitation of each other of the other two research method. So, when you are using qualitative research method, you won't be able to gather the actual data that relates with, emotions and getting to know people's feelings, getting to get narrations. So, and the same thing is applied to qualitative research method. You won't be able to measure based on numerical values or give measurement to something. But mixed research method helps us to solve this. So you can, in your research project, you might decide, oh, I want to use a mixed research method whereby, oh, I'm collecting my data through interview and also I'm collecting my data through measurement. And yeah, which is kind of interesting. I think I did something like that in my research. So let's go forward. Now, having understood research method and the types of research method that we have, what are the tools we use for each of these three research methods? Now, let's understand that we are talking about the two because the mix actually combines the two research methods. So when you are using mixed research method, that means you are using combination of the two research method. If that makes sense. So now on the left hand side, I have the quantitative research, while on the left, we have the qualitative research. So, and I'm very aware we are all familiar with questionnaire. Maybe at some point, someone has approached you to help them fill their questionnaire and whatnot. So, and which is something that is very, very rampant, I mean, among undergraduate research, and it's very good. So there's no really tough or hard feelings regarding that. So Quantitative research, under quantitative research, if you are working with quantitative research method, you'll be using survey or questionnaires. So now, you have a target population sample. So when you have, oh, I'm sampling Ilorin, and in the whole of Ilorin, my population is in University of Ilorin or Kwara State Polytechnics. And from this sample, I'm expecting to get like 200 respondents from my population sample. So, and then, you have to produce your questionnaire of 200 copies for your respondent. So you have to, just to measure your data, to collect your data. So under quantitative, we have questionnaire or survey, we have observations. Also, we have document screening, we have experiments. Under qualitative, which we've previously discussed, we have interview. It could be one-on-one interview. We have focus groups. Observation is not supposed to be here. That was a mistake on my end. Also, we have document analysis. We have oral history or life stories. So now, in details here, I give a brief explanation of what each tools or techniques are about. So I'm very sure you might know what questionnaire is. That's asking questions to large number of participants, or you can use Likert scale to measure opinion as numerical data. So observation can involve, counting number of times things has happened. So you can count the number of times, oh, in a day. Okay, so probably like now that I'm currently experiencing electricity failure. So I can say, based on my research, if assuming I want to move to a particular area, I want to research about this area. So based on my observation in this area, they have light for uh 12 hours in a week. So, that's based on my observations after I'm trying to make research. So it's based on the quantity. So I'm trying to attach a numerical value to my research. Also, if you have experimental, probably you were once a science student, I mean the actual science student in secondary school, or maybe you minored from science department. You probably do some experiments, and you have to test hypothesis. You measure, okay, this the acid and the base and whatnot. So you try to base it on experimental, using experimental method, of course, is under quantitative research. Also, it could be based on document screening, so sourcing numerical data from financial reports or counting word occurrence. So, if you see word occurrence and observations, they look similar, but document screening is like, gathering analytics from paper, from financial report, from stock market and whatnot, stuff like that. So they are under quantitative research. So anytime oh, I'm attaching numerical value to these things, just know you are doing something that is relating to quantitative research. And for the qualitative, we have interview, because you are trying to get you are not dealing with numerical value here, but you are dealing with facts. You are dealing with facts. So when you know quantity measurement, you are doing with quantitative. When you are talking about facts, emotions, culture, you are doing it with qualitative, which is quality. Fact must be quality. You are dealing with human facts. So then you have interview. It could be semi-structure, unstructured, in-depth. You have focus group. You have oral history or life stories. Probably you have to visit like a community. How did learning takes place in this particular area in so between so period of time to so period of time. There was a time, we have stone age, we have iron age. So in case you are trying to gather history about, okay, how was learning done, like how was learning carried out in the ancient Ilorin Empire, you know, you can't gather this thing by looking at the number, like, oh, this was the number. like I don't think there's a way you can gather the real fact with the number, right? But when you listen to people that share this particular history, and you are trying to get the real fact from them, just know you are doing with qualitative research. Now, please, if I'm moving too fast, just let me know, please. You can just let me know if I'm moving too fast, because I feel I'm moving too fast.
No, you are.
Uh,
You can continue.
okay, cool. So we're talking about the I was meant to talk about variables. Interesting, interesting. But let's proceed. I will jump back to variables as opposed to progress. So this section talks about EdTech research project format, and I believe if you get this format right, you have lesser back and forth with your supervisor. Yeah, I strongly believe that. I mean, these are some of the things your supervisors probably correct, how your words have been formatted, the font you use, just sticking with the format. If you are not aligned with the format, you will have to print again, all those things, particularly if your work is not being corrected digitally. So let's go forward. So the project format we'll be discussing on is being provided by Department of Education and Technology, University of Ilorin, and that's the vote I have here. So, for your undergraduate research project, which I'm very aware of, it contains the preliminary pages. So, the preliminary pages are start from your front cover to table of contents. So, preliminary pages contains your acknowledgement, your dedication, uh, your acknowledgement dedications. It doesn't contain abstracts. Of course, they are also regarded as primary pages. All those pages are regarded as primary pages. So, yeah, we'll look at the format I have, format sample I have. You have your table of contents. I'll be there's a typographic error here. I'll show you how you can generate your table without stress. You don't have to type your table manually. So now to the main part of your project, you have your chapter one, which is introduction. Chapter two is literature review. Your chapter three is methodology, and which is the part we've been talking about, which is talking about how your data is being collected rather. Your chapter four is the analysis of the data you've collected from chapter three. Your chapter five is the conclusions, and also you have reference. So that's the highlight uh, of your research. Now, let me give you a gist. Once you go to your chapter one to three, right, you are basically done with your research. Once you get your chapter one to three right, you are done, right? The part you can have more correction is chapter one and three. Chapter two is based on literature review, and that's the most bulkiest part of undergraduate research. I mean, to my whole level of understanding, that's the most bulkiest part because you have to pick variables, talk about the variables in your research topic, research questions in details in your chapter two. Yeah, but it's more of a lesser work because you are trying to to study previous research that has been done. Yeah, so for you to come up with your own, contributions, your own information, your own creative way of solving problem. So I'll be opening the document to show uh, the project sample. Okay. So this particular project sample was gotten from the department, and it was shared by, I guess it was created by Dr. I don't, uh, by Professor Gulumari. Okay, so now this is your front cover. This is the cover for your project, and this okay. Note explanation for each section are written in italics. So I will share this particular document with you. I mean, so that it can serve as a guide for you. And if you are just joining us, I'll share the links to the files on the group. But I'll make sure I share it again so that you can just catch up. So this is the front cover, and again, for some of you that have conversation with previously, you have to be very careful that your project topic must not exceed 18 words, which is the standard format for our department. For EdTech department, I'm very still my department, really. So yeah, and it doesn't have to like be more than 18 words. You can have a minimum of 16 and a maximum of 18 words. Not a minimum of 16, but between 16 to 18 words. That's it. You can't go beyond 18 words. So you have to keep that in mind. And don't put yourself under the pressure of getting exact 18 word at first. Don't make that mistake. Once you have an idea or once you have a standardized topics that you want to do as your research, you can now reframe it to make it fit within the standardized required words. If that's understood, excuse me, if you get that right. So you don't have to put yourself under the pressure that, oh, my project topic must be exact into what at first. But once you figure out this is what I want to work on, you now have to reward it to fit into the required words that is allowed. Is that taking? So, and then you can, that's one of the most important informations you have to consider. Now, I don't want to talk about this, but I will make sure you I talk about it now so that I don't forget. If you look at the font that is being used here, I want you to take note of the font that is used in the front cover to the other part of the format that I'll be looking at. And I will appreciate that if someone can just unmute the mic and when it's time and tell me the difference they can see. So this is part of the preliminary page, and also this is the dedications, which is not really you can get the arc of this when you are done with your project. So the dedication is, whom are you dedicating your project to? You have your project topic here. You you just follow this. It's not really a big of a task here. So certification is also part of the preliminary pages. Uh, Copyright, this is just attesting to you haven't, copied anyone's work, like plagiarize any other person's work. So preliminary pages, this is also acknowledgements. Yeah. Now we have table of contents. This is your table of contents, and you see how it's been generated. It's really it's very, very important because it happens a lot that it's after you are done with your project, you start to, or which pages, background studies, which pages, you can save yourself the stress of automatically generating it from your software. So on your table of contents, you have the title, which was the first cover page, like you see. Um, you have the declaration, you have the certification, copyright, dedications, acknowledgement, table of contents. You'll be having tables in your research. That's very certain. You might not have list of figures. But you will have um, list of tables. You have list of table. That's certain. And there you have abstract. So what abstract really means is, okay, we'll still see a detailed explanation there. So what abstract really means, it's like a summary of what you've done in your research. So abstract is what drew people's attention to your project, to know, oh, if this is going to be interesting or not. So abstract is not going to be more than 50 words, and it has this grace of, or you can reduce the font to 10 font size. So abstract is like a summary of your whole research, okay, and what you found out in your research. So you come up with abstract when you are done with your research, when you've completed your research. That's when you write your abstract. But it's at the top of your research. It's what the person, like a stranger, like if a stranger come across the research, the abstract is what they are going to read, and it's what is going to tell them, like the whole summary of what your 150-page research is all about. If you get me right. So it's just going to give them insight to what to expect in your research. And yeah, it's no more than 50 words. You give an overview of your introduction. So in your abstract, you don't talk about your chapter two. If you remember, I said your chapter one to three is the most tedious part. And once you get that ones right, you are done. So you talk about your introduction briefly, very briefly. So you said to contain very strong sentence emphasizing the need for your study, of course. Your main purpose, preferred your research title, problem statement that will spur the readers and put them in suspense, emphasis or suspense to what your findings could be, and the specific objective of the study. So you see, I'm just repeating the same thing, right? But what you have here must really spur the reader, must catch their attentions. So, and you have to extract this from your introductions, like just, you don't even have to say it can just be 2 or 3 lines. So, still, for example, let me give an example now. Let me say I work on effect of social media on student learning and their performance. Now, I can state, okay, maybe based on my research, I found out that a percentage of students have failed in their academic performance due to use of social media. So I can just look for a catchy word, the advance of social media as affect student performance in such a way that just put your words together. I can't really think straight at the moment because I haven't really worked on that before, and I don't give a non-valid um, opinion. So, and as you probably the first paragraph, you talk about like introduction, a brief introduction but very catchy. Then you talk about the methodology, which is the research method you've used in collecting your data. Remember, we've talked about the quantitative, qualitative, and mixed. So you talk about it very briefly here, and this is pointing to your chapter three. This your methodology is pointing to your chapter three. Now, after you talk about the method you use and the techniques you use in collecting your data, in attesting to probably social media truly affects students' performance or not, then you talk about the method you used. So, and then the next paragraph, you talk about the findings, and these findings is relating to your chapter 4. You see how these things are connected? They are not really entirely hard. They are just connecting to each other. So once you've gotten all, and the abstract is just like a summary. So you are done with your project already. Just drill this abstract here. And yeah, your conclusions, what you find out. Your conclusion is a summary of the research in like based on your result in chapter 4, then you now break it down. You probably you based on your research, like in your review, someone has discovered something relating to what you find in your result in your chapter 4. Now you now link it back to, okay, my data, I found out that based on my data and the analysis, I found out that truly 55% of students are affected by social media. I mean, social media affect their performance, and this is in alignment or in agreement with the person you've researched about and you cited their work. So, do you get how these things are connecting? And yes, so please feel free to talk if you want to talk, and if I'm talking too much, just let me know. And also, I think we've talked about the abstract. Now, chapter 1. One thing at this point in time, what should be requested to bring is your 1 to 3. I've gotten questions about that, like, oh, my supervisor is requesting that I should work on my chapter 1 to 3, which is very good because it will put you on your feet to, bury your head and start working. So let's talk about the chapter 1 to, okay, chapter 1 is introductions. And in your chapter 1, you have the background to the study. You have the statement of the problem. You have the purpose of the study. You have your research questions. You have research hypothesis or hypothesis in case your research have an hypothesis. Now, you have, in case your research have an hypothesis, your research might not have, or it might have not just one hypothesis. Depends on what you are trying to find. Your scope of the study. Your scope of the study, we talks about what are your demographic, like where is it covering, where are you using as a sample. So clarification of major times and variables. Now, variables. Now we're back at variables. But before we end the call, I will explain what variables are. So variables, I say, so variables are really like just objects that makes up of your research topics, right? They are the object that makes up of your research. Now, variables can be dependent or independent, if you are following me, right? So variables can be dependent or independent. Now, let me cite an example of a research I want to carry out based on food. Now, let me say, uh, uh, trying to look for an idea that relates. Okay, let me just use my research topic. Effect of learning management system on student academic performance. So let's do a very quick practical thing. Let's do something very practical. Okay, so effect of management system on student academic performance. So this is my topic. Oh, this is not my entire topic of student academic performance and learning basic science, schools in learning. Yes, this is what my topic was about. Okay, this is how it was structured. So let me see if this follow the format. Let me see if it follows. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. So it's exactly 18 upper basic schools. It exactly 18 words, because I could remember I also had challenge with meeting up with the words. Like I had to think, what can I remove, because it was very long. You know, I don't want to abbreviate LMS. I want it to be like learning management systems, you get right. And that makes it longer. So we had to think, or my supervisor also helped me to reframe it. So it was really easier then. So now where I have my topic here, this is my topic. It's the effect of learning management system on students' academic performance in learning basic science and upper basics schools in Ilorin. Now, we said we have variables and we have the dependent and we have the independent. So, citing an example of my research topic now, can anyone guess what would be the dependent variables and what would be the independent variables? Let's make it a little bit interactive. Let me see who's on the call. What should I call names? So someone asks question like if the abstract should be 50, it's 500, it's 500. So can someone just probably you want to try what would be the dependent variables in this topic? What's going to be the independent variables? Is anyone trying? Or should just go ahead? All right. So someone wants to talk. Nobody. Okay. So you guys are on. Okay. So yeah. Now breaking down my topics, we have effect of learning management systems on student academic performance. Now look at this topic. What is changing there? Something is changing in this topic, and which is the student academic performance. Let's give this one a read. The student academic performance is changing. Why learning management system is not changing? I mean, in literal sense. So the student's academic performance is dependent on the learning management system. So in this scenario, learning management system is my independent variable. Why the student performance student performance, student academic performance is the dependent variables. So of course, we are trying to measure student academic performance based on the learning management system, based on the effect of learning management system. So in this kind of scenario, we can now say student academic performance is dependent on the learning management system. Now, you might have questions that, okay, don't let me assume. Did anyone really understand what I explained here? Like, are you clear or you don't understand? Just ask.
I understand.
Okay. Okay,
You can continue. We are good.
okay, great, great, great. So, yeah, great. So now we know student academic performance is dependent on the learning management system. Yeah, and like that, like that. So if you say like impact of like I've been saying social media, I don't know why I'm saying social media, impact of social media on student academic performance in EdTech. Now you know like the social media is the independent variables, why the academic performance. So whatever is changing in your research topic, or what's the cause and effect. So the cause is the dependent variable, why the effect is the independent variable, right? So you have to take that like that because it's the one causing the effect, right? And you have the cause. So it's really kind of tricky. So you might have to make sure you develop terminologies to understand it. You know. So in essence, just know like whatever is changing is the dependent variable. I'm sorry. And why was not changing is the independent variable. Now back to the back to the format. So what clarification of major term means and variable is. So as you begin to discuss about your topics and details, you will talk about some specific variables because generally this is not you when you talk about schools, there are a lot of entities that are made up of a school, right? You talk about the teacher, you talk about the learner, which are the students, and in the student you have the male and the females. You talk about learning management system. So you have to define this. Okay, what does learning management system means? Probably when I was clarifying times in my introduction, I tried to make sure I used LMS. So, and this has been repeated, like be occurring repeatedly throughout my research, throughout my write-up. When I get to this clarification of major times, I have to define what LMS is because it's very important so that once someone else pick my work, they understand like, oh, anywhere they see LMS, they mean, I mean, I'm referring to learning management system. So, and it's also applicable to other times you might probably have used. Probably you use upper basic school. So you have to clarify what upper basic school because you don't assume that everybody knows what upper basic school is. You don't assume. When you are talking about undergraduate, you don't assume everybody knows what undergraduate is. Probably in your research, you are working on AI and you talk about AI, you have to clarify it. But now you have to know it's not like you're writing an entire textbook on clarifying your terms. It's just you trying to explain, oh, based on my own research, this is what AI means. I can say it means Ahmed Isa. So I'm trying to clarify, okay, once you see AI through my anywhere again in my research, just know I'm talking about Ahmed Isa, right? I mean, this is just for clarification, so not so. And same thing is applicable to probably talk about emerging technology, emerging tech. You have to define this is what it is, and terms that are similar to this. I mean, not only this. Maybe if time permits, I can just open my research and see, and some other of my colleagues said, which have asked for their permission. So now talk about significance of the study. Again, this is taking us back to when we talk about the definition of research. Now, after this research, what am I expecting that my research will do in my community, in the society, in the environment? What contribution am I bringing with this research? So the significance of the study will expatiate on after my research, oh, it is hoping that it will clarify, do this, it will help to enlighten people, it will help to bring information. So the significance of your study is what you are going to discuss at the last section of your chapter one. So I am aware that I didn't talk about statement of the problems. I will explain this when I look at my project so that I can understand what I'm trying to say. Now, your literature review. Your literature review it's it's a work where you have to appraise literature of other people that have worked in line with your research. So now you are trying to give a more detailed explanations about your literature review. So from the literature review, it's like collecting previous work that relate to your work and trying to analyze each variables to 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 sync and make a meaningful research to contribute to your own. So based on your literature review, you are trying to deduce, okay, which of these philosopher, which of this researcher, are, as what did they have to say about this? If someone says something positively, like they agree to this term, and also you'll see some other researchers that they argue about it and they critique it. So you have to look for how you can embed it in your own literature review and make sure it's built like the chapter. It built it with meaningful information, and it's going to inform decisions when you are making conclusions, like I previously said. Your chapter 3 is not really more of work. You just talk about the research design you are using. We've talked about the quantitative, the qualitative. You might have to go, um, you see, the sampling techniques. So you talk about the populations. Your population can be Ilorin, your population can be Kwara South, your populations can be Nigeria, your population can be North Central. So then you decide your sample. What are my sample going to be? So if you are talking about population, you can't collect data from the whole population. I mean, you don't have that luxury of time. So you have to you have to create a sample from that population. So even if I'm saying University of Ilorin, we have about 40,000 students. I can't collect data from all of them at a go. Like, how do I want to do that? Of course, there might be some digitalized way of collecting data from students, but as it pertains to your research, you might have to, you will have to, create a sample from the 40,000 students. Yeah. So, and also you have to talk about the sampling techniques you are using. Okay, this is why I make these decisions. In my sampling techniques is I only want to talk to medical students. I only want to talk to life science students. I want to talk to students in faculty of education. I want to talk to students in life sciences. So, yeah, so that contributes to your sampling techniques. So now talk about your research instrument. What are your research instrument? Is your research instrument interview? Is your research instrument questionnaire? Is it observation and stuff like that? So you discuss it in your research instrument. So your procedure for collecting data, what will be the process you follow? Will you have to see the school headmaster? Will you have to see the Kwara State governor? Will you have to meet the president of Nigeria to collect data? Will you have to talk to the dean of the faculty? I mean, I'm just being sarcastic, really, but I mean talking about president and whatnot. So, but you have to, discuss in details what are the procedure. I could remember when I was discussing about my procedure, I said I give a detailed explanation. You have to collect approval from the department to show at the school I was going to, just so they can recognize I'm genuinely a student. So also your data analytics techniques. Yeah, so this stage, after you collected your data, you have to analyze them. So in this section, you just talk about how you analyze the data. And then in chapter 4, the data you analyze here based on your methodology, you just bring them here. You arrange them, you collate them here. You are not really doing much of empirical classifications and whatnot here. So you are just bringing in your data to chapter 4, making sure they are structured with what you're working on. And then in chapter 5, you discuss like discussions, like you just discuss briefly, you reach a conclusions, then you talk about the implications of your study. What are the implications if this is not done? What was the potential like implications of these studies based on the finding you find based on your findings? I'm sorry, I'm getting that. So, and also the limitation of the study. What are the limitations you encountered when you are carrying out your research? You know, say for example, you only sampled three faculties from the whole University of Ilorin. That's the limitations already. You can't sample the whole populations, right? But based on your research, you were able to sample just three faculties, and you can't make a total conclusions or decisions for the whole populations based on that, because from three you take from 15 faculties, you take out just three. So you see, it might little bit be flawed in your conclusion. So now you make recommendations. You suggest probably someone else is interested in picking up this research again. What are the things you recommend that the person do? Maybe you suggest that, oh, they should look at other faculty aside from the ones you research on. Yeah, but it's very, very simple. I mean, this section. So I don't know if I don't think so, and I will appreciate if you can. Hello, please, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hello. I'm sorry, a
Yes.
call
Yes, I can
interrupted
hear
my.
you.
Okay, so that's and now thank God I scroll here. Talk about reference. So as at when I did my research, that was which I
Sorry,
was
I
still
can't see
believe.
your screen again.
Okay, let me just share again. Let me share again. Let me stop sharing. Share again. Okay. I think you should be able to see it now. Can you see it now?
Yes.
Okay, cool. So this is what I was showing. So research, talking about the reference. So the reference is that like they accept the APA format, which is American Psychology Association standard format. And yeah, I think this is best explained if we do kind of practical on how to generate your reference. I'll also explain that to you. And appendix under this or material used, but which could not be placed in the body of the work due to obvious reason with the material. I can't entirely remember what this appendix is. Oh yeah, that reminds me. So when we're talking about your method of research, we talk about how you procedure for collecting data. So in my case, I obtained letter from the department, head of department, HOD. So those are some of the things you can. Maybe you took pictures during your research. Maybe evidence of the research in details. So you can attach them to your appendix. Maybe you develop like you develop something or you construct something, you can attach the picture, the pictorial representation of it in your appendix. In my case, one of the things that were contained in my appendix were the my what's it called? The question I set. I did post test and pre-test, so I included them in my appendix. so that just to show proof and just to show evidence of what I've done. I, I've not even read it through this. So you will also have to include your questionnaires, your instruments. Yeah, so actually here too. Now, these are some of the okay. I said I was going to ask something, but I'll even show it here. All right. So if you look at how the documents were structured, you see like one of the things that is different is how the format were. Like you see, they are consistent, although not all part has the same format, but they are very consistent. On your top page, you see this is in capital letter and it has its own font. This is in 14 or 16. And why your research must be in 12 font. Please don't make that mistake to change it. It has to be in 12 font size. And also it has to be Time New Roman. The reason why they are using Time New Roman is because it's more legible. I said legible, my bad. It's more legible to read. So I would recommend that you use Time New Roman at 12 points. I think that's more recommended. Please use this. I'll suggest that you ignore these ones. Please use this Time New Romans at 12 points. And yeah, for your preliminary page, your numbering of your page, the numbering of your page should start from, from 1 to 3, should start from chapter 1, while other pages should be in Romans numeral, as it's being indicated here. So honestly, these are just some of the little things that can save you time. Once you get these things right, your supervisor will be like, are you sure you're the one that do this project, or you just bring it from somewhere else? Like they'll be like this suspicious and like, are you sure, or you just draw someone else's work? You get, because once you've familiar yourself with these little details, it saves you time. It saves you cost. Now I understand the economic is hard. Having to go and print again, just because of mixing numbers. Please, you might want to try to avoid that. So this is just the time to learn. Don't see it as a struggle. Just see it as learning, because it will be useful for you later, even beyond the research. So you should learn how to number your page in case you don't know it, because I also had to learn it then too, how to number pages, and because it can be really kind of stubborn having to segment a particular section of the page to have Roman numerals and other parts to have like the numbers. So you have to take note of that. And this is the supported table style. So there is no margin lines or left margins. So you only have these 3 margins. No matter how long your data is, you have 3 margins. Yeah. So, and this is style that is supported. I don't know what is being called. I don't know what this style is called. So you have to take note of that. Okay. Thank God it's here. So it's APA, the 6th editions. So 3 horizontal lines are recommended. So no vertical lines are accepted. So it's called the APA 6th current edition, 6 editions. So I learned something new today too. So for your figures, used for private illustration pictures, or if you have pie charts and figures representations like that. So those are some of the things you use for your table of figures. And yeah, you are done with your project. Now you are done. You are now a graduate. Before I just should I just flash my project, or if you have a question, please ask, because it's just boring. Just I've been the only one talking since. Do you have a question you'd like to ask? Please ask me questions. Ask me questions.
Okay. And I want to ask question about the project topic. So are we just to submit just one topic for our supervisor, or we can submit multiple topics? So we just approve just one for us.
Okay, so the thing is, it depends on your supervisor. Some supervisor will give you the number of topics to submit, while some will not give you. So, but what I would suggest is you should submit minimum of two and maximum of three or four. Don't submit more than three. So, what I
Okay.
would suggest that you should have two or three topics. You understand? So, and
Okay.
peradventure, probably your supervisor gave you like area of interest or area of research interest. So make sure your topics are not outside of that, or else you have something you genuinely wanted to work on. You just have to talk to your supervisor about it. This is what I want to do. You have to talk to him about it if you have something you genuinely have interest in. So for the number of topics you can submit as much as possible, but the longer it is, the more it shows you haven't know what you want to do. But I would suggest you submit a minimum of two and maximum of two, three or four. Yeah,
All right.
Um,
Thank you.
no problem.
Good evening.
Yeah.
So I also want to ask him questions. I My own supervisor is Dr. Isa, and I'm like I already
Mm.
make research on four topics down, but I just want to probably you are familiar with Dr. Isa. I don't know his own way of doing things. Like, and I would like you to help me review the topics that I've made research on.
So I'll be glad to help review topics. Like I'm even happy like to see like you come up with the topic already, and I'm coming.